Hello, everyone. I'm Emily Rose Fire, an integrative mind body coach for moms. And today I want to share with you, uh, I think about 10 or 11 pieces of bad advice I've received as a new mom. Um, and it's either bad advice or just people's opinions they love to just give to you as a new mom. Um, I I'm trained as a coach and I've learned how to guide people to their own decision making instead of just giving advice. I can share my experience. I love to share what I've learned, but I don't really believe in just telling people what to do. Um, a lot of people have told me what to do. And if you know me at all, as soon as someone says you should, it's like there's this internal block that happens. And I'm like, nope, whatever you're about to say, I don't want to do it now because you told me that I should. Um, However, that aside, I think these pieces of advice have been told to mothers, mostly, I think, in the US because of our strange culture in terms of raising children and motherhood, especially. Um, so I would love to hear some of the bad advice that you've received, or maybe you wouldn't qualify it as bad, but maybe it just didn't apply to you and it turned out to not be true. Whatever it is, I think it's kind of funny to look back and hear some of the things that we've been told that you can just roll your eyes at. um, it's just simply not true for everybody. It might be true for some. Some people are trying to give you advice because it's what they wish they had done, or it's what their mom told them to do. Some of it is just really outdated medical advice or parenting advice by old white male doctors or scientists who never actually took care of children. They just observed and made their own conclusions, or advice that was given to nurses and doctors in hospitals with lots of babies to take care of at once. They had to kind of systemize things. So I just want to share some of the advice that either friends have given me, family, doctors and nurses, and from society. So, number one of my friends at the time when I had just become pregnant said, labor is just really hard and you should just go ahead and schedule the C-section. Just like make it easy for yourself. And at the time, I started working with a midwife in the hopes of having a natural home birth. And that was my dream, was to do things what in the way that I thought was the right natural way. Um, Turns out when you make plans, God laughs. That's what they say. So my son ended up being in breech position and we had to schedule a C-section at 39 weeks. It was not what I wanted and I was very scared and we had to go through it with it anyway. Turns out it's not the easy way out. It is very painful and traumatic, and it, I don't think it should be just like the thing you go to first unless there is some reason that you decide that and that's for you. But to tell a new mom that labor is hard and you should just schedule a C-section because it's the easy way, I think is bad advice. So that's number one. Number two, what they were telling me in the NICU, my son had to go to the NICU for a few days, which I think was a mistake on the part of the hospital. However, the nurses were telling me to never sleep with my baby, to always make sure he had his own sleeping space in a separate room, like from day one. And I already knew about that advice. And I already knew that I did not want to put my son in a separate room from day one. I thought that might happen around 6 months. But from all the reading I had done and what felt right in my intuition was to keep my son as close as possible, to protect him and to make sure that he was all right. And turns out it's the biologically normal thing to do, to sleep with your baby and to breastfeed them throughout the night, to be close. Not everyone can breastfeed. This isn't about that, but to be able to respond to them immediately is what felt right to me. So I think, again, to just say to everyone in a blanket statement, never sleep with your baby, I think is bad advice. It might not be the safest thing for some families to sleep with your baby in your bed. If you can't make it a safe sleeping space, it's not a good idea. But they have bedside bassinets, and you can attach your crib to your bed and be there to respond to your baby when they need you. That goes along with a very controversial topic, but I feel very strongly about it. And I was told to let my baby cry for multiple reasons. One being to let their lungs develop and get stronger, which I think is false, because their lungs are developed in the womb, especially if they're born like my son at full term, fully grown, fully developed lungs. It doesn't actually make sense to cry to develop lungs. Crying is in your throat and your lungs are for breathing. So that doesn't actually make sense to me. So I just kind of laughed it off, but I thought that was a really weird piece of advice. It kind of goes with like making sure the baby knows who's boss, that they can't manipulate you with their crying. So you have to make them wait a minute. Crying is a way that babies communicate. It's the only way they know how, and we need to respond to them and see what's going on. A lot of times it's something that you don't know right away. It's not that they're hungry or need their diaper fed, or sorry, their diaper changed. It's that they're too hot or they're too cold or whatever. So you kind of have to investigate, and to leave them to cry just doesn't make any sense to me. So there's that. Oh, and that kind of goes along with giving a child, a baby, especially baby, a feeding schedule. Babies are learned or have been born with an intuitive eating schedule all on their own. They know when they're hungry, and they will let you know by crying. I don't believe in making a baby wait every 2 to 3 hours to nurse. I nursed on demand with my son, and he's a healthy, growing boy. He's very strong. He's very healthy. To make him wait and to let him cry just because it doesn't say on the clock that it's ready, it's time to eat, doesn't make sense. Also, in terms of breastfeeding on demand helps boost the supply. So to tell a new mom to make your newborn be on a feeding schedule is just bad advice. All right. Oh, speaking of nursing, this one gets me fired up. I was told that if a baby bites you while nursing, to just flick them in the cheek to inflict pain, to teach them a lesson. It gets me fired up. I do not believe in inflicting physical harm onto your child to teach them a lesson. I won't allow anyone to inflict physical harm to me to teach me a lesson. I demand respect and communication. That is what I do with my son. So to flick him in the cheek to teach him to not bite makes no sense, and I think is bad advice. I was taught by a trained and licensed lactation consultant a couple of strategies to stop biting, and that was the good advice that actually works. So that's what I followed, and that's what I would tell a new mom, to listen to a trained and licensed lactation consultant who would not tell you to flick your child in the cheek to cause pain, to teach them a lesson. So that was one. Yes, going along with that, I was told that psychologists have determined that babies starting at 9 months can manipulate you, and you need to teach them who's boss and to make sure they know that they can't manipulate you. Babies are just learning. They're just experimenting with themselves, with you, with their environment. They don't know how to manipulate you. Manipulation is a far greater skill than a baby can have. Um, their prefrontal cortex is not fully developed until age 25 to 30, depending on female or male. There's no way that a little baby has the ability to have that forethought to get you to do something that they want to manipulate you. So if your 9-month-old is responding to you saying, no, don't touch that by touching it, there's a disconnection in how you're communicating and what they're learning. And it's up to you to take responsibility to take that item away or to move that child into a safer environment. They're not manipulating you. Okay. All right. What's next? Okay. Start how you intend to finish. This is a phrase I've heard thrown around in multiple ways, not just in motherhood, but I heard someone telling me that in terms of sleeping, like, you better put them in their own bed now because it's going to be harder later to take them out, which, yeah, sure, it's true. But to tell a new mom, to start how they intend to finish is harmful in that it doesn't allow for flexibility in the learning process in all the stages of development and growth. It kind of puts you in a box and creates anxiety. At least it did for me. Like, oh, shoot, if I'm not doing it right now, then they're going to be sleeping with me when they're 17. And how am I going to get them out when they go to college? Like, that's just bad advice. I would rather say to a new mom, figure out what works for you. Everything changes on a daily basis. If it doesn't work, try something new. If that works for a little while, don't get too attached because things change. You got to be flexible. You got to go with the flow. The relationship is more important than setting these strict rules around certain things so that you don't have to deal with it later. That might sound counterintuitive due to how our society has taught us, but that's what I believe, at least. Oh, parents aren't supposed to be friends with their children. So I think that's false. I would much rather be friends with my child when, they grow up and have them want to hang around me than for them to look at me as just an authority in their life. Yes, we have rules. Yes, we have boundaries, but I want my sons, to want to hang out with me and have us in our lives. I want to have a friendship with my child. That relationship is more important to me than being an authority. And I think throughout our experience together, they will appreciate that more than laying down the hammer and being a strict authoritarian. At least that's my opinion. I just don't think it's great advice to tell all parents that they can't be friends with their kids. All right. Oh, this kind of goes along with that. Spanking is the only way to discipline your child. I think that is not great advice. I was spanked as a child. No, it didn't harm me for life. No, I'm not super traumatized by that. However, it did harm the relationship between my mother and I. It was a factor in my lack of trust and feelings of betrayal and bewilderment. How does someone who loved me so much hit me and harm me? And I know it's controversial, and I'm probably going to get comments or emails about it. It's a fight that I'm not trying to fight, but I have a strong opinion about it. It's actually backed by science now that spanking is harmful. So I think it's bad advice to tell a new mom that it's the only way to discipline. And the word discipline actually means to teach. So I would look at how you would actually want to be taught a lesson and how you would like to teach your children lessons versus physical harm and pain. All right. One of the things I was told as a new breastfeeding mom was to eat a lot of carbs to produce more milk, and eat a lot of oatmeal, and especially in the mornings, to produce milk. I don't know what the actual science is behind that. I think hydration is way more important than carbs in terms of breastfeeding. I don't think it upped my supply any. I was a enougher. I produced just enough milk for my son. I would try to pump and have like another bottle or two available if my husband needed to feed him instead of me, but I never like overproduced. And I gained like 20 pounds in the first 6 months because I was eating so much oatmeal and carbs, trying to like follow this rule that somebody told me about breastfeeding. None of the lactation consultants actually said that to me. I heard that from a few different moms and I thought it might be true. They were probably just giving anecdotal advice because they were overproducing and they happened to be eating oatmeal every day. So if you're a new breastfeeding mom, eat healthy for you and just drink a lot of water and see if that helps. All right. Sleep when the baby sleeps. I would say that this is great advice, except it's lacking a follow-up piece of advice. So just saying that to a new mom, I think is bad advice because it doesn't teach how to actually get to sleep when your baby's sleeping. Okay, so you're a new mom, you finally get your baby to nap. Yes, you're tired. Yes, you would love to take a nap. However, because you haven't been taught how to ask for help, because you don't have the village surrounding you that you need, you have a whole to-do list running through your mind. And the minute you try to lay down with your baby, your brain is on fire, thinking about all the things that you're not doing that you're supposed to be doing. And then you start to blame yourself. Or you actually do take the nap with your son and or daughter, and you get up 2 hours later and you're like, holy crap, I forgot to do this. I forgot. And then you blame yourself for actually taking the nap. So I think to say to a new mom, sleep when the baby sleeps, without offering actual support and saying, sleep when the baby sleeps, I'm going to come do the dishes and the laundry for you while you sleep, would be much better. I don't think just that phrase alone is great advice. So that's all I have for you today. I would love to hear your thoughts on these. I'd love to hear any bad advice that you've received and how you've flipped it and what you would say to a new mom instead. If you are a new mom or you know someone who's expecting or just had a baby, please share this video with them so they can have a little bit easier time navigating everyone's advice that they love to give. Let me know what you think in the comments or send me a message through my email. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.